Greetings. Hello again. Aria, casino, hotel, pool, spas, art galleries, poker goes, slot machines, and blackjack tables. Happy Friday. The new usual, 5-5-10 PLO, about to hop in there. I have tried this. I've tried doing this a few times recently, and it hasn't really worked out so well. Just gone card dead, like super card dead, at the start of each of my last handful of sessions, and then kind of just gave up recording. So I've played this game maybe, 4 times since we last spoke on this channel, and no major swings to report. A little bit on the card dead side, and probably reverting to the mean a little bit following some very nice run good in the early sessions that we have played this game. Anyway, not going to babble too much here. Let's go hop in the action, and later on, maybe joined by my favorite PLO coach, Dylan Weisman, who I think is going to grace us with his presence in the live streets today. And if that is the case, maybe he can share some more wisdom with all of us. But we'll see if he does in fact make an appearance. I'm going to make an appearance for sure. Here I am. Let's go.
My mind adapted to poker. I'm talking poker lyrics. I'm buying in, hoping to cash out. You got to hear me. Cash me out. Cash app, home games. Poker boy, I'm headed to the poker game. My mind adapted to poker. I'm talking poker lyrics. I'm buying in, hoping to cash out. Y'all got to hear me. Cash me out. Cash app, home games. Poker boy, I'm headed to the poker game. Poker boy.
All right, guys, look who it is. The doctor is in the house. By the way, who came up with the nickname Dr.
Joe Ingram.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you ran with it.
I didn't run with it. He ran with it for like 5 years, and now I'm running with it again. But yeah, that was a Joey thing.
I mean, you could do worse.
I'll definitely take it. It doesn't help me get into good games though.
No, I wouldn't think so.
It's
You're not doing yourself any favors marketing-wise.
It's very bad for that, but great for when we're trying to get the people the good information.
That's true.
Yeah,
different kind of marketing.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to talk about some hands. I've been playing the 5-5-10. So in this hand, there's one limper. The cutoff makes it $50. I call with ace, queen, 9-8, 2 spades, not spades. Ace, 8-4, 2 hearts. Checks to me, I bet 100. Pretty standard?
Yeah, you bet a little smaller. So generally speaking, when you're the in-position player and you get checked to, you're actually not supposed to play a lot of bets. Because you're betting into multiple players, and those out-of-position players should have really heavy checking ranges. And so this is kind of a thing we talked about in some of our previous sessions, where if you're the out-of-position player, generally you want to play a really heavy check frequency.
Yeah.
And so when they check, it doesn't mean that they have missed anything. It's very possible that they just checked because they're supposed to check. And so when it gets to you in position, you don't really get to bet very often, and you don't get to bet very big because you don't have as big of a range advantage as you assume you would. And on a texture like Ace 8-4, it's not super locked down, but also not super wet either. And so your sizing is probably going to be in the bet 40 range multi-ways. And generally speaking, they're supposed to be checking aces. That doesn't always happen in live poker. And a lot of the times, if the person who is in the cutoff has an ace in their hand, they're just going to be betting. But let's take that to be true anyways. Let's assume that their range is really weak. We don't need to bet big if we're against a weak range generally, with our bluffs and with our value hands.
Yeah.
And so in both situations, either if they're playing closer to optimally or if they're supposed to play a lot of checks, or if they just have a shitty hand, which means their range is generally weak, we don't need a big bet to accomplish our objective, which is to take aggression and try to get our opponents to fold the majority of the time.
Okay, so check or bet 40 in that spot?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, your hand is a perfect bet 40 hand.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Next hand, aces. Double suited aces.
Very pretty.
So there's like 2 or 3 limps.
Cool.
And I make it $60 to go. And we see only one caller. Jack 4-3 rainbow. He checks. I bet 75.
Okay. Your sizing is correct. Half pot is what I'd want to go here.
Yeah.
Jack 4-3 is a combination that you can sometimes size up on, but you don't want to do it against a limp calling range, generally speaking. It's weird when ranges are really wide, because it's not what we kind of study. And so you have to kind of adjust your strategy effectively. I think your sizing is correct on, is it two-tone or rainbow?
It's rainbow.
Jack 4-3 rainbow. You could get away with a 60, like a two-thirds sizing or a half pot sizing. Both would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I bet 75 and he calls. Mm-hmm. Turn is the 5 of diamonds, second diamond. So we actually make 2 pair here, a weak 2 pair.
Yep.
And it's pretty connected now. So I mean, I wasn't exactly sure what to do here. Like, we don't have any diamonds.
That's not great.
And we don't block any straights.
Yeah, if they check to you, I think this is a very good check back.
Okay.
We do block the ace deuce straight.
Okay.
So that's somewhat relevant,
Yeah.
but we're the most likely person to have the ace deuce straight. They're the most likely person to have the 6-7 straight once they've checked call.
Yeah.
And so we don't really care about those blockers as much as we would in a different scenario. And so I think a check is very appropriate here because we, as you said, we don't block the 6-7, and that's really important. Let's say that we had a hand like top 2 pair with a 6 or a 7 in our hand, that's more of where our thin value is going to come from, is blocking that straight. But when we aren't as likely to have the nut straight as them, we have to play a lot of checks in this spot. So I think you did a good job by checking it back.
All right. River's queen of diamonds, so backdoor diamonds come in, and he leads for $100.
Ugly. No diamonds in our hand. They also can take this sizing with a straight. Right, they're betting about 1/3 here on the river, which is actually
That's kind of what I felt like.
I like their sizing.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Like, even if he has like queen jack, I feel like he still might do something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we check back the turn, we do have some aces with the nut flush draw. So when they bet small, this is never a call, but it could be a raise. I think in this scenario with our specific hand, because we block the 2-pair combinations, we block the ace deuce. They can have the nut flush, and so usually if you're making the nut flush bluff, you want to have the blocker for it.
Yeah.
But in live games where people are overfolding, you can get a little out of line if you want to. I would say that in this specific scenario with the hand that we have, it's just a pretty easy fold.
Okay.
Cool.
I fold. Okay, yeah, this one was pretty interesting. Another aces hand. So we're 1K effective in this hand with our opponent. The low jack player makes it 35. We have ace, ace, jack, jack, no suits.
Ace, ace, jack, jack. Okay.
I make it 120 in the cutoff.
Cool.
And he calls.
Okay, so heads up to the flop.
Yep. 8-5 deuce with 2 hearts.
Do we have the ace of hearts?
We do not. So we don't have any hearts.
Okay.
And he leads right out for $250 here.
And we're 1K effective?
We started 1K effective, yeah.
It's a ripper fold spot.
Is it?
I think.
Really?
So calling feels atrocious. So if we think about the good turn cards for us, it's literally an ace and a jack
Right.
with out a heart. So there's 2 outs that feel good.
Right.
But when they lead into so
I mean, even an ace puts like the 3-4 straight up there.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is I probably just find a fold here in a live scenario. People just don't bluff this way, and like their bluffs are 5, 6, 7 or 6, 7, 8 X or something, like top pair with a straight draw or top pair with hearts or something like that.
Right.
And this is actually a really good example in PLO. I think newer players will get really attached to their aces in this spot, especially aces and jacks. So it looks really, really pretty. But if you really think about what their bluffs will have more equity than your hand.
Right.
And so it takes a lot of reference changing to really like get rid of the fact that yes, it's pocket aces, but they're just not as strong as they once were, especially in hold'em.
Yeah, I pretty much like came to that conclusion like after the hand. I was like, I need to just be folding the flop, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I call the flop.
Okay.
And the turn is an offsuit jack.
That's ridiculous.
So it's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So he jams it in, obvious call. And we run it twice. And he had ace king 6-3 with nut hearts. So he had an inside straight draw, like the lower inside straight draw and nut flush draw.
So I think that especially against a competent opponent like you, playing a lead there is really hard, just because you're gonna be hard to find bluffs.
All right. I mean,
I guess their hand is a bluff, but to me it's not. It's like a nutted hand, right? You have an inside straight draw, nut flush draw. Yeah. That's a really, really strong hand.
Sure.
But yeah.
All right. I like how you called me a competent opponent. It feels good.
We gotta keep the stoke up, right?
So, all right. Next hand we open king 9-4. We have king high diamonds. It's a 35 from early position. I think we're first to act.
Okay.
And the next player makes it 110, folds back to us, and we call.
Yep.
King Jack 9 with 2 spades.
Okay.
I check, and he bets 75, so about a third, I think.
I guess their sizing is fine. It's close. It's a little small, but it's close to correct.
Okay.
Check call is good.
Yeah, are we ever check raising with top set on a straightening board with we don't have spades?
If we have a queen or a 10 in our hand, or if we have spades.
Okay.
So this is actually a really good example of how to mix different hand classes. Yeah. So all your top sets are not equal. In this specific scenario, we have top set, but we don't have a 10 in our hand, and we don't have a queen in our hand, and we also even block our own outs because we have a 9.
Yeah.
And so this top set has a lot of equity, but it doesn't remove enough equity from our opponent's range, and so we don't want to play it as a check raise. Whereas if we have king, queen, it's much less likely our opponent has that nut straight, so we can maybe play a check raise there. And if we have kings with a flush draw, we're actually a favorite against the nut straight if you have it.
I do know that.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right, so I call the 75. The turn is an offsuit 7, and I check, and this time he checks it back.
Okay.
River is a terrible 10 of spades, so mean, we're losing to more things, I guess.
Yeah.
I'd check any bets 250 into 370. We have the 4 of spades, but probably not really relevant.
Not relevant. The only thing that we would hate is if they have the bare aces with the nut flush blocker, but a lot of the times they're not even c-betting that hand.
Right.
And so I think that we just give it up.
Yeah. All right, we give it up. All right, one more hand here. That's it. The rock is in middle position. There's 5 folds, and we make it 40 to go with ace, king, queen, 7. We have king high suit here.
Still fine.
Still good?
Yeah, still fine.
Okay. Player on my left goes 100, and there's 2 cold calls.
Yeah, it's one of those spots where we hate it, but we have enough high card power to still play a call.
What do you think about 4 betting?
If I had the ace high suit, I like it more. It's the issue is that you're just not going to get a lot of folds. Like you're going to 4-bet and they're all going to call
Yeah.
in a lot of spots. Especially
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You go.
If the you're greatly diminishing the stack spot ratio in that instance, and you're just kind of like looking for a high card flop to go with.
Yeah, that's exactly correct.
Is that like a little reckless or?
No, it's not reckless. It's mostly. It's just how much variance do you want to have in your game. It's a higher variance play that probably has pretty good EV. You don't need to take it though. It's like a spot. Yeah. It's a spot that is available. It also depends on some people min 3-bet with aces literally in these spots just because they want to. And so it's hard when you have a player who's not doing linear things. Like they're making a min raise because they kind of like their hand or because they're scared to put more money in the pot, but they want to in some ways. And so it's hard to really put them on a range. And when that's the case,
we're just smashed with this hand if we're up against aces, right?
Yeah, we're absolutely the 7 is horrible for against aces. Even if we're against kings, we don't really have a good thing because the 7 is just such a bad hanger.
All right, so I make the call, and we're going 4 ways to king 10-8 all diamonds. We have the ace of diamonds. So do you usually lead out in this spot, or you just play in flow more often?
So we have top pair, inside straight draw, nut blocker.
Yeah.
So this is a really weird spot because it's like a min 3-bet spot. And so I think that you do get to play leads here because we can have a lot of suited ace combinations when we're the raiser and then the caller. So the way that I would think about it is you're allowed to play leads if you can logically have a lot of nut flushes. And so even in live games where it's not like a GTO outcome where people are doing weird stuff like min 3-betting, you can take leads if it's possible or plausible that you have the nut flush, either the nut flush or the nut flush blocker. And so this is one of those scenarios, right, where we were the initial raiser and we called the 3-bet. So yes, we don't have ace, but we very likely can have like ace king queen, ace queen jack. There's so many suited aces that we're going to have here. And when that's the case, we do get to play some leads. When you do lead this flop, it has to be small though. It has to be like if you're betting into multiple people on a lockdown board texture, it's usually you bet 1/3 on the flop and then pot the turn, pot the river, is what it looks like. Because you want to make it so that people continue wide on the flop because we're literally only representing the nut flush here. Yeah. Maybe some ace king king with the ace of diamonds as well, or ace 10. Like we can have sets with the nut flush as well. Nut flush blocker, excuse me. Like those are our bluffing hands in those spots. You can play some leads there, but we're pretty much representing really, really good equity or the nut flush blocker.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Okay. So I decided to check, and the action checks through, which is kind of expected. So we have the ace of diamonds.
Yeah.
The turn is a 9 of diamonds, so now there's 4 diamonds on the board. And I lead out this time for 275, which I'm not super sure about the sizing. But
we lead full pot. Wait, is there a straight flush available?
Yeah.
Okay, no. We lead half pot, I think, when the straight flush is available multi-ways. Actually, I can't give a perfect answer to this one. The straight flush is really weird when we're 4 ways and as deep as we are.
I mean, that's probably going to be the statement that is repeated often in live poker.
Yeah.
We're in a really weird spot.
Yeah, we are in a really weird spot. Because the nut flush blocker is still really important here, but it's diminished in that way. And so the way that I think about it is, what would I bet here with the nut flush? And I probably would be betting half pot if I had the nut flush, and then potting the river, and then pot folding the river if the board doesn't pair. So whatever I would do with the nut flush is what I would do with my nut flush blocker. I just play a mirroring strategy, and so I'm probably betting half pot here.
Okay. So I bet the 275, and we see 1 caller, and the river's another diamond. It's the jack of diamonds. So it's queen 10, 8, 9, jack. There's a straight flush on the board, basically. Like there's a 5 card, all straight flush.
Yeah, when that's the case, the nut flush blocker becomes more important now because there's less straight flushes available.
Yeah, okay.
And so now we click the pot button on the river.
All right, so I bet 600, which is a little less, or it's maybe like 75%.
Yeah. In these scenarios, when you're going polar, you have to go full polar. It's not like because it makes your bluffs less efficient when you bet smaller, and you also get less value when you have the nut flush here.
Yeah.
And so you need to just say the word pot out loud. And I think that's a really good trick for a lot of newer PLO players.
Yeah.
Is when you get to the river and you've been betting multiple streets, don't try to do something where you bet a little bit smaller to try to get your opponents to call or whatever.
Right.
That's a logical fallacy we tell ourselves. That's not really true. And so just go with what you think. So no, go with what the maximum sizing allowed to you is, which is the pot. Because in that scenario, you're going to get the max amount of folds when you're bluffing, and when they call you and you have the nuts, you get paid off the biggest.
Yeah. So you never like exploitatively don't say pot, bet like slightly under it to try and get called in live poker.
I will not say the word pot, but calculate the pot in my head and then bet that amount.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Fancy.
that's what I do. Because I think it has the same effect with some people.
All right.
But I still want to get the maximum.
All right, well, I bet the 600, and he tank folds.
Hell yeah.
Sweet.
Love to see it.
All right. He's off to the 25-25 PLO.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for all the help, as always.
Always.
All right, buddy.
Later.
Guys, all of a sudden there's easily 10 plus places in downtown Las Vegas, in a specific area of downtown Las Vegas called the Arts District, on a specific street, Main Street, and then like a few streets off of Main Street. Easily 10 plus places that I could take you to. This is one of them. This is called Nevada Brew Works. They were kind enough to sell me a beer just beyond last call. I went with the dark lager. But yeah, there's so many places down here that I could take you to. Hope to take you to most, if not all of them. One last hand to look at from our session of Pot Limit Omaha. We looked down at a pretty double-suited hand, 9865 double-suited. We opened that one up for a raise, and our friend on our direct left puts in another 3-bet like he's been doing very frequently. We're gonna get a little bit out of line here. Normally this isn't a hand that I would find a 4-bet with all that often, but this guy's 3-bet frequency is so high that I kind of want to do it. So I'm going to do it. I put in the 4-bet to $400. But even if he has aces here, how bad a shape can we really beat? 9865 double suited, I think, is still going to perform okay if we just pile a bunch of money in there. It doesn't come to that. My opponent flat calls the 4-bet. So we're off to a flop which comes ace, queen, queen. This might look like a terrible flop for our hand, but this is actually a fantastic flop for our range. When my opponent doesn't put in the 5-bet, he's never going to have aces, or he basically should never have aces. And we are very likely to have aces full here. So we can put in a bluff and make it extremely cheap. So I bet $150. It's not going to get the job done right away. My opponent is going to make this call. I'm not too worried yet, though. I mean, I would prefer he just folds to the $150 bet, of course, since we have 9 high. But we're going to see what happens here as this hand plays out. The turn is a deuce of diamonds, second diamond, but mostly inconsequential. I decided to check it here and see what my opponent does, and he checks it back. The river is another inconsequential card, offsuit 6, I believe, and it's time to finish the story, complete the story. We go ahead and rip all of the chips, all the money, move all in here on the river, or close to it maybe. Make a pot-sized wager. My opponent doesn't seem too pleased with the run out, with the hands in general. He shows us pocket kings, and I give him the what are you gonna do? You know, that kind of a reaction. And he tosses his cards into the muck. So, I don't know, I get a little bit out of line there, I think. A little bit to a lot out of line, maybe. But versus this player's 3-bet frequency, I don't think it's all that bad, really. Pretty happy with the way that one played out. And a few hands after that go our way as well. We were pretty close to break even, down a little bit, up a little bit in the early to middle stages of this session. At that point, we were able to string some good hands together and book a win. Get into the game for the $2,000 maximum, cash out of the game for $4,022 for a profit of $2,022. The PLO journey goes on. I'm going to stick with it here in Las Vegas at least. It does look like there's going to be some travel shaping up semi-near future. It looks like the first meetup games back are going to be in Texas. Looks like we're going to head back to the Texas Card House in early June. So clear your calendars, get to Texas early June. It looks like a little Texas tour could be in the works for the first couple weeks of June. Lots more information on that to come. And aside from that, I don't know. I've been doing some thinking, you know? I've been doing some thinking about this this vlog format, this long form vlog format. Don't want to like, you know, make any plans. I'd rather just do something rather than tell you I'm going to do something, because maybe I'll end up doing nothing. Anyway, just like random thoughts there. More to come from downtown Las Vegas in the Arts District. Signing off for now. See ya.